Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CLSR. And I'm your host, the counselor. And today we're going to talk about part two, accepting your body, which is really accepting yourself. You see, we've talked a little bit about all these influencers and negativity that could be associated with how we look at ourselves, and the influencers like the media and what people say, or people who you've established long-term relationships and you've just become accustomed to. However, you haven't realized some of the comments that are detrimental to your relationship that you depend on, and they could even be negative comments, and you depend on them so much that you can't let that friend go away. And some of these comments, you don't know how they're impacting you. And I did advise you in part one that one of the things that we do is we have a lot of negative self criticism that we put upon ourselves on a regular basis, but it's so common that we don't really notice it. And I really recommended that we take a journal and write down some of these negative thoughts that we get about ourselves. And then after 1 week, I want you to take a look at that list. And that's what we discussed previously. But I feel that moving forward, we have to get away from the negative and refocus our energy on the positive. We have to learn to focus on the positive. There's so much negativity coming out. Like I said, even if you turn on the news, it's all bad news. Oh, there might be the smidgen of good news, but the majority of it is bad news. And it's for the public, right? And it's informing people of all these things that are going on. And there's actual things going on that are negative, but we are bombarded with all this negativity. And reality can be somewhat distorted, because where's the message coming from? Some of the message is coming from these large organizations, and basically they're out there to make us feel that we need to improve ourselves all the time. Weight Watchers, all these organizations that promise results, all this medication that we're taking, it seems like we're never really satisfied. So when we talk about accepting our bodies, it's really accepting ourselves. So now that we're trying to move away from the negativity and move towards being positive, we have to consistently identify what we like about ourselves. Every time we notice ourselves thinking negatively about our bodies or an aspect of it, we have to remind ourselves of something about our body that we like, right? And that means, just as I mentioned, making the list of negative things, we're going to have to start and establish a list of positive, at least 10 positive things about ourselves, omitting anything or any appearance related, right? Add to the list frequently. This will help us begin to understand and appreciate all the wonderful aspects of ourselves. Like, you'll actually realize that your body is just one part of the total package. We might even have to reinvent our relationship in the mirror, because we're always looking in that mirror, and sometimes we like what we see, and other times we just don't. But if you spend too much time in front of the mirror, you have to make a rule that you can't say or think anything negative about yourself when you look in that mirror. Instead, use your mirror to identify the positive things you see. If you're still struggling with the mirror, take it away for a while, right? Like, I'm pretty sure there's research out there that says that you may be more likely to focus on your career or relationship rather than your looks, right? If you take away that mirror, right? I want you to verbalize positive affirmations in front of the mirror. You could say to yourself, you're beautiful, you're amazing, right? You're thoughtful, you're kind, when standing in front of the mirror. This may feel forced, and you may not initially believe that you're telling yourself, yeah, right, these things, but you are telling yourself these things because you need to put it in your mind. Right? The counselor is a real believer in train the brain. Take out the negative. We're being bombarded with the negative, and we need to put in the positive. It's just like when it comes to people in our immediate surroundings. If you want them to be positive, we have to give them positive, right? And the CBT I told you about, the cognitive behavioral therapy, it does work, especially over time. So if you get somebody in there working with you and they're actually good at what they do, they really make a difference. And remember, I do recommend that in order for us to improve our health and well being, we're going to have to set some goals and make some real changes. You see, part of learning to fully accept and be happy with our bodies may mean that eventually we change some aspect of it. For example, this might mean that if you are overweight, you hope to lose weight. But remember that the numbers on the scale are just one aspect of an indicator of your overall health. Make sure that you are scheduling and keeping regular physical exams when you can get all of your numbers, like your weight, your blood pressure, your blood sugar, your cholesterol. This will give you an overall picture of your health and will allow you to discuss your health goals with your doctor. I mean, how many of you actually go and understand that a lot of the weight problems that you have are cognitive issues? And it's basically habits that you formed over time, eating habits, what you eat, right? You've never really changed it. You think, oh, I can do this by myself. I'm just going to lose some weight where I need it, or the doctor would tell you your BMI's off, you need to do this, and then you just walk away and you never really apply it. I mean, it's really cognitive when it comes to weight and taking care of your body. And I don't think we use that enough. We don't think enough about what we really have to do and take responsibility. I'm not just talking about exercise, I'm talking about intake, cognitive thoughts, your patterns. If you know, let's say, I'm going to give you an example. Like, if you are in a relationship and you just got out of the relationship because of whatever, and then next thing you know you start to consume more foods, well, you're trying to please or satisfy yourself, right? Or you're trying to make up for something that you lost. So it could be real cognitive. So there are a lot of reasons, but I think the brain, I don't think we use it in the right way, and we don't apply our strategies accordingly. I think what we do is we do what we think we ought to do. We don't get well informed about it. We have to do that. We have to be more well informed about taking all these generalities that we have in society. We got to get rid of some of those and be more specific. What am I going to do? And set up a plan, right? Like, think about it. It does take work, but it takes knowledge too. And a lot of what we do and think about ourselves is cognitive. And we got to take a lot of negativity and change it, right? Like, even when it comes to weight, it's possible that you may need to gain or lose weight to be healthy, but you should also aim to achieve strength, flexibility, and endurance, right? Like I said, set goals, those positive goals. Rather than focus on the negative of the goal, highlight the positive. Like, for example, if you decide to begin a workout regime, avoid framing your goals in terms of how many pounds you want to lose. Instead, have your goal be something positive, like, I'll work out so that I can run 2 miles without stopping. Or, I'm going to commit to a walking program so that I'll be fit enough to hike part of the Appalachian Trail for my wife. Right? You know what I mean? Like, something specific like that. You have to be understanding that it's got to be more specific. The general is where we get lost. We don't really follow general instructions, right? You'll have to understand that you'll have better luck at success, both in terms of achieving your goals and learning to feel better about yourself, if you think of what you hope to accomplish or be able to do better. Do physical activities that you enjoy. Like, how many times do I hear people say, I'm exercising and I hate it. I'm working out and I'm sweating. Oh, yes, I see some results. Well, you do have to think, though, if you're doing something that you really don't like, it's only going to be temporary. And I mean temporary. Like, people might do it for a month, they might do it for 6 months. See, this is why these gyms out there are rich. The guys who own the gyms, or the women who own these facilities, these exercise facilities, they're rich because they know cognitively you're not thinking, right? You're not thinking properly. They know you have good motivation. You're gonna go sign up, get that 1 year membership, and it'll get you into that, right? And you know Most people don't even show up. They show up one or two times, maybe three times, put a month in, and guess what? They don't show up again. So that leaves a lot of open space for people to. This is a cognitive thing, people. You have to think. Your mind has to make really rational decisions, and you have to say and do what you really say, which means if you're going to commit, stick to it. I said that. If you're going to commit, stick to it. But these rich people, right, the wealthy who own these gyms, right, they know you're not going to stick to it. And if you do, you're going to be like, what, 2% or 3%? A lot of people like their gyms, but they might go once a week, if that, or once a month, and they can depend on that and they profit off of that. But if you really want to take care of yourself, you got to commit and stick to it. So I really recommend, if you're going to get into exercise at all, do exercises that you enjoy repeatedly, however, or how often you want, but do things that you enjoy. And if you're doing something you enjoy and you start doing it too much where you don't enjoy it, get it back to the point where you just enjoy it, right? So find an exercise or an activity, even if it's a sport that you do only for a couple months, right? If you sign up for soccer or basketball or volleyball or swimming, you only do it for a couple months, but you enjoy it, but you switch it up. That's a beautiful part. And if you love it, go for it. Until you even find what you want, or you just naturally want to change it up. If you love yoga, then do it even if you think that you are currently too overweight to look graceful at it. Nearly any fitness program can be adapted for individuals of different sizes and fitness levels. Like if you are self conscious working out in front of other people, consider taking private lessons or working out with a close friend or working out at home. Be careful not to let your fear of being judged by other people dictate how you will lead your life. I told you, judgment is one of the big sins of the world. We judge ourselves, we worry about being judged by others. It's just a very big hurdle and a barrier that we have to deal with often. I think when it comes to dealing with changes, we're going to have to adopt our own style. Don't choose your clothes, your makeup, or hairstyle simply based on what you think is appropriate for someone of your body type or what the fashion magazine says it is most flattering. Wear what you want, what you like, and what you feel comfortable in. Choose clothes that reflect your personality, that are comfortable, and that fit your lifestyle and activities. Like, try out a wide variety of clothing styles and that fit, right? Like if you feel confident and beautiful in a style that is considered to be flattering for your body type, you know, then by all means wear it, but also do so because you like it, not because you think you're supposed to wear it, right? Or you're just trying to get too much attention. You got to keep things into perspective. Like when you compare yourself to others, that's problematic. Compare yourself only to yourself. The world would be a pretty boring place if we all looked the same. There's no point in comparing yourself to others, regardless of whether the person is a celebrity or classmate sitting next to you. Instead, compare yourself in terms of how you've progressed over time. Now that you've created your own realistic goals, you might think to yourself that you've improved your appearance compared to a few years ago. Right? Don't forget to be patient and kind to yourself. Don't treat or judge yourself too harshly, right? More than you would anyone else, right? Remember that body image is only one part of a healthy self image. It is important that you learn to accept and hopefully love your body, but it's also vital to realize that your self worth is not defined in any sense by what you look like. When you think about the people you admire, love, or respect the most, what qualities spring to mind? Do you value others or yourself only for the physical qualities or because of character and personal traits? Think about it. Know if you are having some dilemma in regards to your self image, know when to seek some help. Understand that nearly everyone struggles to maintain positive body image all the time. And it's normal to have ups and downs, but you should also honestly consider if you need to speak with a counselor, right? A doctor or a mental health professional. There are various signs that your body issues are severe and require professional help. Like, you got to ask yourself a few things, right? And I would say, like, are you unable to control negative thoughts about yourself? Do you spend hours thinking about your perceived flaws? Does your unhappiness with your appearance interfere with your life? Like, do you avoid going out or speaking in public? Do you dread going to work because you're afraid of being seen and judged? And do you spend an excessive amount of time in front of the mirror each day grooming excessively? Are you unable to stop comparing yourself to others? Do you avoid being photographed? Understand that if you struggle with any of these that I just mentioned, you most likely need help to accept your body. You may possibly have what is known as body dysmorphic disorder, BDD. Now, BDD typically requires professional help, especially if it's left untreated. Now, BDD can lead to suicidal thoughts and behavior. Even if you are not diagnosed with BDD, know that there is no shame in seeking help and advice rather than struggling on your own. Now, the counselor does recommend getting support, extra professional help when needed. However, I do have to put up a disclaimer that you should find professional help that works for you. You have several options when it comes to getting professional help. You can see a mental health therapist or a counselor or get one-to-one therapy, or you should possibly find some local support groups within your community for like less formally structured experience. There are even online support groups where you can build relationships with others who suffer from pervasive negative thoughts about their body. The important thing is to remember finding support from others who are not going to judge your perceptions about yourself. They might even have some helpful tips that will assist you as you work through this. There are a number of things that you will deal with when it comes to accepting your body. However, we do need to understand that when people obsess too much about it, they could actually experience eating disorders, right? And basically, eating disorders are conditions involved in an obsession with food, weight, or appearance that negatively affect people's health and daily living. And you might have an eating disorder, or someone you know might have an eating disorder. Now, keep in mind that eating disorders are a range of conditions involving an obsession with food, weight, and appearance. This obsession negatively affects your health, relationships, and day to day living. And to be diagnosed with an eating disorder, a person must have both disordered eating and psychological disturbance. Think about anorexia nervosa. People with this anorexia have an intense and irrational fear of gaining weight and having body fat. They may believe they're fat even though they're well below the normal weight for their height and age. Anorexia is the most fatal eating disorder. Some people may die of complications related to starvation, while others die of suicide. And think about bulimia, right? People with bulimia go through cycles of binging and purging. Binging involves eating large amounts of food quickly. This makes people feel physically ill and anxious about gaining weight. Then they purge, which can involve vomiting, depriving themselves of food, over exercising, or using laxatives and diuretics. So if you have a binge eating disorder, which is known as BED, people with the binge eating disorder overeat compulsively, consuming huge amounts of food, often all at once. Like the other disorders, people with BED often feel out of control and powerless to stop the behavior. So let's consider some of the signs and symptoms of this. Like if you have anorexia nervosa, there are short-term symptoms and long-term symptoms. Like if you have short-term symptoms, this could include extremely restricted eating, like avoiding mealtime, eating only certain foods, extreme thinness, constant pursuit of thinness, and an unwillingness to maintain a healthy weight, an intense fear of gaining weight, like frequently weighing themselves, a distorted body image, like these people see themselves as overweight when actually they're not. And that's some of the short term, but we also have people who have those long term symptoms. And that could be bone thinning, mild anemia, muscle wasting and weakness, brittle hair and nails, dry and yellowish skin, fine hair growth all over the body, severe constipation, low blood pressure, slow breathing and pulse, heart damage, brain damage, multi organ failure, right? Lethargy, like they're sluggish or they're feeling tired all the time, or changes in menstruation, infertility, like unable to have a baby, right? And those are some of the long and short terms of anorexia. Those are some of the signs and symptoms. But when it comes to bulimia, right, some of the symptoms may include like a frequently inflamed and sore throat, swollen salivary glands in the neck and jaw area, worn tooth enamel and increasingly sensitive and decaying teeth as a result of exposure to like stomach acid, acid reflux disorder or other gastrointestinal problems, intestinal distress and irritation from laxative abuse, severe dehydration from purging of foods and fluids, electrolyte imbalance, like it's either could be too low or too high, like your levels of sodium or calcium or potassium and other minerals. And this can lead to stroke or heart attack, right? That's bulimia. But when we think about maybe binge eating, the BED, those symptoms are really eating unusually large amounts of food in a specific amount of time, eating even when you're full, eating fast during binge episodes, eating until uncomfortably full. Like eating alone or in secret to avoid embarrassment, feeling distressed, ashamed, or guilty about eating. Like if you frequently are dieting, possibly without weight loss, um, that is BED. And there are risks when we talk about these disorders. There are risks. Um, Eating disorders appear to result from multiple factors, like including cultural, social, family, and emotional pressures, personality disorders, genetics, and biological factors. There are researchers that have shown a connection between child sexual abuse and subsequent development of easy eating disorders. Eating disorders typically begin during adolescence. Up to 90% of eating disorders occur in women, though men are being diagnosed more frequently or more often. That's just what's going on. Like if you want to consider diagnosis and treatment, you're going to have to realize that treatment includes like psychoeducation, which includes in self-help resources and resources for family, nutritional counseling, psychotherapy, like I told you, CBT, or interpersonal therapy, or otherwise known as IPT. Now, I do have to caution many people about some of the dieting programs. I'm really worried about what we do and what we're advised to do from outside resources like the media, where a lot of people take some of their advice. There are fads out there that we have to be worried about. Um, think about the new industry of diet, right? It's $1 billion business, and many of their profits are made by promoting diets that promise instant results and fat weight loss. This diet fad and eating disorders are starting to go hand in hand, like people capitalizing on these diet obsessed culture, right? Think about it, billions of dollars. And while it may be tempting to follow these popular diet scams, many of these trendy diets are not only ineffective but dangerous to one's physical health. Think about the juice cleanses, the diet pills, metabolism boosting ingredients, list of good foods versus bad foods. All of these things are propelling force. They are a force behind a vicious dieting cycle, and it's dangerous, very dangerous to our health. there are so many gimmicks out there and false promises, right? They want to give people the impression that they're really going to make a major difference in their lives, and it's all for money and profit, right? You know, they really want to give you the impression that what they're offering is going to give you a sustainable physical health condition over a long period of time, in which is just absolutely not true. That's why they keep putting it on the shelf, because you got to keep referring back to it. It's just not natural. And we got to try to get away from these unnatural quick fixes. Yeah, right? We're jumping on the bandwagon of these popular diet fads. And that could be a gateway to an eating disorder, right? Seriously. What may begin as a seemingly harmless attempt for losing a few pounds or getting healthier can quickly escalate to an all consuming eating disorder, such as the anorexia bulimia that I told you, and the binge eating. It's very concerning. I mean, they're starting with our children at, as early as college and university, where they pump it to these young people and they make them feel so insecure about themselves. And instead of doing the hard work and taking the time to work through it and getting support and developing a plan, we just want quick fixes, right? A new diet trend that promises some degree of weight loss may seem like a temporary solution to body insecurities or low self esteem. However, they're not, right? They're not really working. And there are signs that this stuff is just going too far, but we're not looking at it. We don't care. We just want a quick fix, right? If you have frequently turned to the latest diet fad in an attempt to control your weight, be aware of those signs that I mentioned, the weight loss, right? Exercise, dieting, and body image becomes an obsession, right? And that, I told you, is related to the disorder. Those purging methods are utilized in an attempt for weight loss, including self-induced vomiting, laxatives, or diet pills. There are people out there who are doing that self-induced vomiting where they're making themselves sick, throw up, whatever they eat, right? Be careful. These restrictive calorie levels or limited foods on a diet lead to episodes of binge eating. These are red flags that indicate that dieting behaviors may be leading towards an eating disorder. Women may have a loss of menstrual periods. And if you have an intense fear of weight gain or being fat, this could be problematic. If you feel out of control during a binge or eating beyond the point of comfortable fullness, problematic, right? And if you're a person that, you stop being around your friends, or you refrain from social activities and avoid these situations altogether, it could be problematic. You might be going through something that needs to be addressed. If you or someone you care about has been struggling with extreme dieting behaviors, low self esteem, or poor body image, know that there is some help and you might have to go for it, right? So, we've talked about some really good things today, and we need to consider that it could happen to any one of us. And it doesn't help when we move more away from the hard work of actually doing our research, gathering resources, and setting up a plan rather than getting the quick fix. And a lot of people will tell you, well, I'm just grabbing these pills because they say they're going to work. And truthfully, if they do work, they're only going to work temporarily. And we do worry a lot about what other people think, so we just do the quick fix. And if people say, I don't really have time to go to the gym all the time, and so I'll take these shakes, these meal replacements. Well, those aren't healthy, meal replacements. People tell you they are, but they might make you look a little skinnier. You might eat less, but then you might be starving your body of your much needed nutrients. And so you don't want to do that. So you want to keep it as balanced as possible. I mean, they've updated our healthy food guide here, which I think is important. Somewhat going away from meat and going into more of a plant-based diet is, I think, a really positive thing to do. I think we need to do that. We need to start getting more of our real homegrown earth-bound foods. I think meat is out there too. I can't say that all meat's bad. I can't. I'm sure there's a portion that you have to have. But what I'm really concerned about is these artificial foods and these pills and right these supplements that are on the market, and people are taking them and they don't realize that seriously I can see those contributing to cancer. I mean, if we're eating all this artificial food that's not even human like and that's made in a lab, what do we expect to happen? See, people are sitting up there getting these cancers and they're wondering. I really believe that we have to go a little bit more natural and drink less of this artificial juice and get into the water. And we have to start caring about ourselves and looking after ourselves. And I know right now that if you do that, you're going to feel good about yourself. You're going to feel healthy, more active. You're not going to starve yourself. I mean, you're not going to go intense. You're not going to get that intense feeling when it goes, oh, I got to over exercise or I'm going to burn it. Because it's going to be, try to keep your routine as natural, right? And this is what I suggest: keep it natural, do what feels good, eat healthy, make sure that you check on your body every 3 or 4 months. You should be doing a physical check on your body, going to the doctor, just getting a check, make sure you're good, 3 or 4 times a year, and make sure that you're maintaining a healthy lifestyle. Watch what you eat. Eating out at restaurants, a lot of us do it. It's become commonplace. It tastes so good. Of course it does. They have ingredients in there that's going to make us go towards those things. They're going to make us want them. Of course. However, the natural food, the more you eat it, the better it tastes. But we're used to sugar bound foods and ingredients, right? It's just natural. There's wonderful things out there for us to eat that are natural. And I know it's a long ways to go because there are organizations out there that make those foods that are really good for us expensive. And that, it's true. If you go shopping today, you'll see that a lot of the junk food out there is cheap. You can get lots of it. And it's good fillers for your kids. However, what we're showing our kids is that here's a quick fix, here's a filler, and you know what? It's going to do for you. But however, they grow up eating those foods and it becomes commonplace. And that's why we have a problem in the world with overweight, and we have a problem with people who struggle with their self image, is because we're pumping it to them for the sake of profit. We want to make them feel good immediately, right? And what is that? Gratification, right? Immediate gratification. We gotta have it. Gotta have it. Well, I think we gotta slow it down and understand that what we put in our bodies will impact how we govern ourselves, how we feel about ourselves, not just the taste, but how our health will be sustainable. And we need to know that if we're eating healthy, it's going to do a lot for us. It's going to make us feel better too. If your system's running well, think of it like a machine. If you put things in that machine that keep it running well, you know what I mean? It's going to be good for the machine. But if you put things in there that impact you, you might taste good, but in the long term you might even be a skinny looking person, but inside you're not so healthy. So we have to understand there are so many things to consider when it comes to our bodies, our self-image, these eating disorders. But I would say that the more natural we go, the better we flow. I said that the more natural we go along with our daily routines, what we consume, how we get our exercise, go more natural, and you're going to feel much better. And stop comparing yourself to others. Be happy with yourself. And if you need to work on yourself slowly. It takes time, okay? One day at a time. Good information. Really good information, I believe, that we've talked about. And I think that it's important that we love ourselves and we try to get rid of the negative influences in our lives and really monitor our negative thoughts. And the way you monitor them is you have to write it out. What are the thoughts that are going through your mind? Are they realistic? Is it too much? Do you need help with it if it's too negative? You don't need to be trying to compare yourself, but a lot of us are trying to chase the Joneses because we're trying to find a purpose for our lives, right? We're trying to find out where we belong. What's our goal? And I mean, if you really think about it, too many people are trying to chase the Joneses. Too many people are trying to look good and get attention. And the reason why they're doing that is because, simply put, they're trying to find a purpose in their lives. And we're going to talk about the purpose in your life. Because once you look at the purpose in your life, the counselor is going to tell you that you may start changing and reprioritize your life, because you could have a much happier life, they tell you, right? If you do this or if you do that. However, if you don't really look at yourself and prioritize what's your goal and what are you doing, in your life, and what's your motivation, if we don't look at that every once in a while, then we're really lost and we're going for the next best thing. And there's always going to be the next best thing. No matter what anyone tells you, you might have one car that you strive for, and next thing you know, they come out with the next best thing. There's always, always, always going to be the next best thing. And what are we chasing, right? What are we chasing when we're spending thousands of dollars on a pair of boots? What are we really chasing? What are we really doing? Are we thinking about our actions and where our self-satisfaction is? Because if we get caught up in that too often, we lose sight of so many different things. Okay? So we're going to talk about our purpose. So thank you, my listeners. And I want you to be like the wise old bird and spread the word. Please do. Love you as I do. Because I do. I do love people. And I do love to see people do good. And I do love people to do better. And I want them to appreciate themselves and understand that there is no blueprint. There's no perfect human being. And that's okay. And I think what we need to do as time goes on is we need to keep our eyes open for everyone. I think we have a purpose to serve. And what I mean by that is to serve human beings, right? And to make the world a better place, not to be selfish individuals hoarding and not caring for others. I think we have to spread our care out there because we're here for a certain period of time and we can do good work. And I think we have a commitment to serve and help other people, which helps us. And there's always room for improvement. You see this world that we're living in. We always need to find something that we can do to support other people, whether it's a business, whether it's a philosophy, whether it's a book, whether it's resources, whether it's just getting on the ground and helping people who need help in that moment. We have work to do. So let's get out there and do it, not just for ourselves. Take care.